to it.
Oh, right. So hitting people in the face with a hammer or an axe is basically the best way to go around this seed.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we'll have to see if we find anything interesting to help our runners off. Crystal ring for a start is not the crystal we're looking for, but a pretty good way of starting everything out.
Yeah, now 5 agility, a stat which Cid tends to lack. Isn't exactly bad. It helps agility manipulations and everything like that.
Yeah, so how about we quickly go over the exact flags we're running with? Tonight we're playing Forge percent, so if it wasn't bad enough that you had to beat most of the seed, now you have to actually find the adamant and the legend sword to forge the crystal, so we might be looking for quite a while to find our go mode, but we're also playing with T4 and S3, so a lot of really good items everywhere in the seed, and we can see people going out in many different directions, so let's see if people are able to find some good loot and start tackling the seed.
Yeah, one of the things about the SS4 is we're going to find a lot of items which basically don't help Cid at all. We're going to find a lot of knight swords, we're going to find a lot of ninja swords, a lot of high-end gear that Cid just doesn't use. However, that high-end gear is usually good for selling, and since it's S3, we're going to have a lot of good items in the shops to buy, such as the higher-end and attack items like the Zeus Rage and Gaia drums that you see in Antidale's screen. We're going to see moon veils in the shop. We're going to see a number of other very nice items that people will want to have.
Yeah, I think I just saw a rune axe for Dia, and even after selling a Murasame, not able to buy the rune axe since it costs 90,000 gold. So some of those items are a little bit expensive, but lots of money for most of our shop items.
Yeah, and that money is just going to keep accruing because they're just going to find all the stuff that they're likely not going to want. On Inventable side, we just saw an Avenger, a great weapon. No use in this seed.
Yeah, but for the most part, all of our runners are going to do quite a few chest checks looking for the coveted adamant armor. If we find one of those, then the seed is completely free since it's a completely broken item in terms of stats. Other than that, we're just looking for some better weapons. Wooden hammers are fairly decent weapons. There are better alternatives for Cid, though. And once everyone finishes up their initial checks, we'll probably see them following Invin's route of heading into Antlion and starting some of these key item checks.
Yeah. Outside of the T4 S3, the pass is a key item today, so it is going to be in amongst all these bosses and key item checks that everyone is going to be doing. Obviously, that is usually the best way to get to Zeromus rather than going through the moon and the lunar subterrane. However, that moon might still hold pieces because of a V1 flag, so moon access might be desirable, especially for some little bits of experience gaining later.
So Invin completing Antlion and getting the first piece of Go mode, getting Magma Key, so access to the underground with the Forge, and a lot of more checks. So this seed is starting to open up very quickly.
Yeah, mostly I think they'll be our runners will be happy to see it because it opens up all the shops on the underworld. Being able to make those checks quickly, making sure they know where everything is that they're wanting to buy after they've got all the money that they need, it is a boon for them.
Yeah, everyone is the probably best way to tackle these seeds is once you get your lofty number of items that you can sell found. Go find some sirens and some coffins, get some levels. Hopefully you'll find an adamant armor laying around in your path, and then just start hitting stuff. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Weapons that will likely be that our runners will be wanting to see, that rune axe that has already been found. There's also ogre axes, which some consider to be a Cid's best weapon. There's the poison axe, which isn't nearly as good, but some people still use it. Earth hammers, silver hammers will do in a pinch, and there's also the hand axe, which I don't think anyone's going to pick up.
It's also not. You shouldn't discount bows for Cids as well. That will give him access to back Rogulich, and his truly best weapon is the Artemis bow, Artemis arrow combination. But that's a quite pricey thing to find. So we'll see if anyone's able to find some Artemis arrows for selling that Artemis bow to make Cid a powerhouse.
Yeah. Just to note that Artemis arrows will be available in shops. Well, could be available in weapon shops. The Artemis bow, however, will need to be found out in the wild. So there's no guarantee that we're going to see either of them.
Ooh, I see Dia just picked up a adamant armor and a power robe in Toria, so that could be a large advantage for them if no one else decides to go to Toria.
Yeah, considering there's only the front half open at the moment, it might be a check that not many people make. But I have found that it's got a lot of decent gear just in those 9 chests, especially on this T4 flag.
As chat is pointing out, we also have sirens in Kaipo. I'm pretty sure Dia already picked those up. Yeah, Dia already picked those up along with exits. So Kaipo looking pretty nice for people, which I know that a lot of newer runners sometimes forget Kaipo, and that could be really bad because we will not have access to the exit spell, and that's surprisingly difficult to overcome sometimes.
Yeah, getting out of towns, getting out of the longer dungeons quicker, especially for instance, the lunar subterrane, when you found what you want and you just want to get out to go forge the crystal, it's easier to just use an exit rather than walk.
Yeah, walking out of the lunar subterrane is quite a challenge, especially if you don't have the pass and have to walk all the way back down there. It's a very interesting situation.
Yeah, it's sort of the walk of shame that no one wants to do.
Anyways, most of our runners are just finishing up their overworld checks. I think we've seen for most of them plenty of decent items. I know we've seen curse rings, so anchoring is going to be really simple. I've only seen the one adamant armor, but
we've still got the big tail on the table, which will give an adamant armor guaranteed, as long as they've got the hook as well. So there are at least 2 available for them.
And BG Rich, checking Job Dwarf, I think it said an oceanographic assistant. I missed the second half of it.
I'm sure Invenerable will also be going there after he's done his checks in Dwarf Castle, if he hasn't already. But he also, BG Rich also found an ogre axe in there, so that's one less weapon he will need to buy later.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, the Ogre Axe is sometimes considered the best weapon for Cid. For the most part, if Cid is not in the middle, it's usually the best DPS for a Berserk Cid all the way up until level I think it's around level 55 when the rune axe starts to out damage the ogre axe. Obviously, the Artemis bow and Artemis arrows do slightly better damage as well.
It's all mostly based on the accuracy stat, isn't it? The ogre axe is probably his most accurate weapon.
Yeah, I believe it has 85% accuracy, which is one of the best. I think it is the best accuracy that he has available, while the rune axe is somewhere around 60%.
Yeah, and that makes a whole lot of difference, more than most people will care to admit. This is why the poison axe is seen as the worst weapon, because its accuracy is actually really bad.
Meanwhile, we have Antidel starting the Fabul Gauntlet defense, so we'll see what boss they have to fight. Otherwise, we're about to get the Feymarch check. BG Rich just checked it and I missed it. Lukaki. Yeah. Okay. And we actually get a easy boss for Antidel, Dr. Luque, who is weak to hammers, interestingly enough, so...
Well, but Balnab is, and Dr. Lugue's second form is. His first form isn't, but it's still just a few hits at this spot at the very least.
Smitty asking some rather advanced questions, but essentially Final Fantasy IV has a kind of unique damage system where it has each character has multiple hit rolls, kind of like in D&D, if anyone knows. Essentially, the more strength you have and the more agility you have, the more times you roll to hit. But if you have something like a 50% accuracy, even if you roll 4 or 5 times, you'll still be able to hit for at least some damage, but it's only going to be about half of the damage instead of the full damage amount.
And I'm pretty sure he's lying there, because Cid has missed on many occasions, mostly against a boss with high evasion, Valvalis for instance, and who our runners don't want to see in one of her more annoying spots. But yes, he can still miss if he misses every single hit. It's rare because he usually, I think he starts out with 3 to 4 hit multipliers. But yes, it is still possible that he can just miss out outright.
On another interesting note, I just saw BG Rich check the weapon shop in Feymarch and found Artemis arrows. So that's going to be an interesting advantage for him if no one else checks it, because it's fairly rare for people to check the Feymarch weapon shops because the NPCs are quite annoying.
Yeah, and yes, Game Boy F9, KQM is the old K2. What it means is the key items are in the regular spots where you would normally find them, just shuffled around, in the quest item spots, which are the summon monsters, and on the moon. We won't find them in trap chests in this seed today. We will still find some rare gear if people want to actually go and fight them, but we won't find any key items in. Ooh, Odin. That looks like it's at Baron Inn.
Yeah, this is the Baron Inn fight. Pretty easy with the Zeus Rages that Antidel bought. That's one interesting use of the S3 flag is the J attack items are for sale, so you can buy some of these level 2 spells that do a fair bit of damage, especially when they hit a quad 4 weakness.
Yeah. Invenerable looks like he's found Artemis arrows somewhere, so they are for sale. He hasn't found any decent bow though, because the best thing he's put on is a great bow.
Yeah, the Artemis arrows were for sale in Feymarch.
But then again, he's just found elven bows in the ball, so I'm pretty certain he's going to pick up one or two of those to accommodate those Artemis arrows.
Yeah, the Elven Bow is really interesting because it has one of the highest accuracies. It might have the highest accuracy out of any bow. And it also has a super effectiveness against mage-type enemies, which would include Ashura and the Mega Sisters. We know Ashura is on hops, but if we find the Mega Sisters later in the seed, that could really help get the DPS out.
Yeah, and with the Artemis arrows innate super effectiveness against dragons, it's a very nice potent combination for a lot of the.
Yes, and we see BG Rich just get an Artemis bow, so right now he is fully stocked on the best weapon for Cid, so we'll have to see how quickly he can utilize that, but the Artemis
interesting.
bows... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's clearing in Fabul of the items, but hasn't actually done the defense.
Yeah, I suppose that's a little bit interesting. I know some people will try to put it off until after the pan, but maybe he's decided to just take a gamble and skip Fabul, which might not be the worst idea. I don't think we got anything of too much interest from Fabul.
The Artemis bow was at Sheila 1, so... And Invenerable's just about to pick that up as well, so... he's going to be very happy with what he's got. And Dia's actually fighting some eggs, getting a few levels straight up. Just make it easier for him to go on into some of the harder bosses later.
Yeah, Cid doesn't scale the best off of levels. He gets a certain amount of HP, but most of his other stats don't increase that much. That being said, he does get some amount of agility and a fair bit of strength, so it's not the worst ideal to level up a little bit early, but it's not as good as on someone like Cecil, who gains much more in terms of raw stats.
Yeah, I've always seen that that Cid's best 2 stat gains are his hit point growth, because that's just absolutely massive, and his natural defense stats are very good as he levels up as well. I think that's mostly because in the vanilla game you only have him for a short amount of time, and none of the gear that you get at that particular point in time is actually any good for him. So he has to the developers probably buffed up those 2 stats just to accommodate it instead.
That's an interesting theory. I know that you get him right before Cave Magnus, which is where you're not allowed to use any of your normal armor, and he comes with a wooden hammer already, so it makes sense to give him a fairly decent vitality stat so that he can tank the hits at least a little bit, but unfortunately defense isn't usually enough without stacking it heavily and using the back row for double defense. It's just the fact that he has a lot of HP that makes him a good tank.
Yeah. So everyone seems to be treading over water that everyone else has done at the moment, and just trying to find really what they're looking for in terms of items. I don't think anyone's really made up their mind. at the moment.
Yeah, that's fairly common for these types of seeds. Is essentially we found underground access pretty early, and because it's S3, you kind of want to spend a lot of time just getting a lot of money and then spending it on a lot of good items so that you can clean up the rest of the seed fairly quickly. Especially with Cid, there's a large risk of just not being able to make progress quickly if you go in unprepared. So everyone's trying to make as much preparations as possible and then just blitz through the remaining part of the seed. I am kind of curious why Inven was still checking weapon shops. You would think with some elven bows, some Artemis arrows, and an Artemis bow as well, that there wasn't much that a weapon shop would offer him anymore.
I do know that Invenerable has been, over the last few days on his practice, really touting a Mac Giant grind for getting levels onto the Cids, and he might still not be happy with the weapons he's got. He may be looking for that hammer or an axe to actually deal damage to those giants.
Ooh, a Mac Giant grind would make a lot of sense. I think we saw charm arrows already. I thought I saw them in Fable, but I could be mistaken on that.
I have seen a couple of the runners with charm arrows in their inventory, and it's really, does he want to go that route with it? Has he found those particular arrows? It might have been just a loose stack that someone found as well. It might not have been actually in a shop. Because we still do have 2 shops that aren't open to us in the Barren Town and Cave Emblem.
Yeah, alternatively, I just saw lit arrows on Antidale's screen in Dwarf Castle, which they're not quite as good as charm arrows, but the Mac Giants are both robots and giants, so charm arrows and lit arrows are super effective against them, so either one would do well enough. Earth Hammer would also be really nice.
Ooh, this is a dangerous encounter for Antidale. Dark Knight Assessor in this spot is going to do a fair amount of damage, so he might just need to pop a few of those Cure Frees just to make sure he ticks over the 3 attacks that he's going to have to endure here.
Yeah, it looks like he should get through the fight pretty well. For the most part, this spot is really slow, so it's not the most dangerous in the world. A couple run buffers would have been really nice to get those Cure 3s off, but overall, I think he'll be fine because he'll get another Cid. So unless there's something nasty here like Ogopogo, he should be fine.
Well, we're just about to find out and see if he's punished for for having them at low health, and that's the Lunar boss.
Okay, just Peldim. This will be nothing too bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, Peldim is considerably weaker than many of the other, or less dangerous, as you could say, it would be better, than many of the other Lunar bosses, because all he does is really hit, punch people and counter with slow. And since Cid's slow and can get slower, but I don't think there's going to be too much issue, especially with Artemis arrows, since Peldim is a dragon.
It looks like he doesn't have any bows in his inventory, which is quite unfortunate, but yeah, Peldim, especially in the Golbez spot, isn't going to be too difficult. Oh, it looks like he didn't have any in his inventory, but had it on his other Cid, so just 3k health. He's already almost done, and with that, Peltium is gone.
So we're going to find out what the item is from that after a little cutscene of the hand of Pale Dim going for the crystal. I didn't know he had a hand, but we'll go with that. Invulnerable picking up some coffins, might be going to actually go and just use a few sirens just to build up those hit points on his Cids, just to see him along a little bit further.
He might also be thinking about the boss in the Feymarch. I know that one of them was the Kaipo, either the Kaipo or Bearing Guard, so coffins will get through those really quickly.
Oh yeah, that's a fairly free fight down here, especially considering these spots are not really to be trifled with. They're high attack power spots, they're fairly high hit point spots, and very fast as well. So it's not the easiest to go through, but it shouldn't be too hard with those coffins to just get two off. If it's just two off if it's the Baron Guards, all you need is one for the Kaipo Guards.
And he also has hourglasses in his inventory and moonbells, so for the most part, I think Invin is fairly safe here. But yeah, these bosses have stats very similar to lunar bosses, so they can be a bit of a problem if you go in unprepared.
Or they're a slightly harder fight than you would normally expect. So if there was something like Ogopogo here, we're going to come back to that quite a lot. Or say Valvalis. Both of those are almost run killers here. But that's Dark Imps and whatever the guards will be. They're both fights are stopped. Can be stopped with hourglasses. Both fights can be coffined. Yeah, he's just going to get through this very quickly. They're going to hit hard for the first three, but that's it.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of our runners like Dia who have that adamant armor are not pushing the advantage of being completely immune to physical attacks and pushing some of these boss spots that could be quite easily cheesed, but it does look like we're finally starting to have some people come back to Feymarch. Everyone likes to go to the same place. It's amazing if you limit everyone to Cids. It's like there's only one route through the seed.
Yeah. But I must try to get this off my chest. I heard. I'm not too sure if you were aware of it. It's probably completely utterly out the window because I heard this on the internet ages ago. That there was in the original game of a super secret way of winning the game, which was strangely with Cid using his peep command. If you peeped every single maybe Mega Sisters, then and Valvalis in her tornado form, and then once she was out of it in her normal form, there's a super secret cutscene that plays where she takes Cid's hammer, hits him so hard that he is rocket propelled to the moon, and because of his perchance to explodes in Zemus's face, and everyone lives happily ever after. Is that true or not?
As far as internet rumors, I am not sure you should quickly dismiss or believe or I don't know how to say that. I don't think we should immediately dismiss it, but it is an internet rumor.
Oh, right. Okay. Hey. Just make sure, because what happened afterwards is also very questionable. Valvalis and Kane get together, they have lots of jumpy babies, Edward goes off on a mission of self-enlightenment and that sort of thing. I mean, who knows? Anyways, it seems like people just us putting these Kaipo guards to bed, and in whichever way they see fit, everyone's in the same place.
Yeah, I think we've boiled it down to Luca Cave or Top of Tower, so people are going to have to start making decisions. There's also the possibility of Demas hiding somewhere, specifically the Hook boss. So we'll have to see how this wraps up when everyone has finished their checks.
Yeah, from what I've seen, and as Ike says in chat, Ordeals is still in play, Luca Key is still in play, and Tower Key at the top of Tower. As you said, at Miss Dragon, is that it right now?
I don't believe we should ever refer to Ordeals as a correct play. Never Ordeals. It's never Ordeals.
I didn't say it was a correct play, but it's still on the table as a play.
With nocecil in the seed, no, it's not a play. And yes, we did have Baronin checked by, I believe, all of our runners at this point.
Invenerable might not have, because he's only got 4 SIDs compared to everyone's 5. I'm not too sure where he got his 4th, rather than...
Well, everyone else, I believe, has, except maybe BG Rich, has done Dwarf Castle, and I know some people were checking, like, the... I know Dia at least checked the waterway for a Cid, so... I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I saw Invent in the Baronin.
Okay. It would make sense that he has been there, because this Dwarf Castle Cid would be his fifth. He wouldn't. Hobbs would have been left, and that's really the only other place that he could get one. So no, yeah, and he got his 3rd one from Damson. So yeah, Baronin seems to be off the table for everyone.
So it really comes down to who's going to check the next bit of progression. I believe after Inven completes Dwarf Castle, that will put everyone except maybe BG Rich on pretty much equal footing. So we'll just have to see. I would assume Dia is ready to start diving places with the extra levels and stuff, and it does look like they are heading to Luca Cave.
Yeah.
So do you have any favorite boss for Luca?
In this for Luca, I would like to see Golbez, just because it's one of the worst places to find him. It's not as bad because of the adamant armor on Dia, but he's the only one that has it, so it's going to be bad for everyone. Yeah,
Golbez would be really interesting.
Normally I'd
Wyvern
say
would be a little bit interesting, but everyone has curse rings, and I'm pretty sure our runners can deal with that.
Yeah, it's also not the Mega Nuke, unfortunately, because the Whichburn flag is active, so we'll get a random spell rather than Mega Nuke, so it's not as dangerous.
until Charm comes along.
Or Big Bang,
Char-
but
Medio. Medio would be perfect. I'm begging and praying for a really nasty wyvern with Medio one day.
I can see it. But again, everyone's treading over each other. They're all clambering into this Luca cave. No one wants to do the top of tower. No one wants to go and do ordeals because they're both single little checks, and looks like they're going to have to because that's a pass. A nice item, but not progression.
Dia resetting out, seeing that water hag. I don't think that's the optimal play here because it's just hold A for 3 hits and then you're walking out, but then you don't have to make a trip all the way down the lunar subterrane. So I think that might have been a little bit premature, but
I completely agree. That pass, especially with such a free boss there, is too valuable in a race setting to ignore it.
Yeah, it's a really difficult call, but I personally love how much versatility the pass gives you, and I imagine a couple of our runners should be taking it, but for the moment that does give Dia a lead on item checks.
Yeah, and he's going straight up to the top of tower. We'll see what the boss is here. It's not really too dangerous in terms of stats, but it can be a time sink because of the amount of health it has.
Yeah, Dr. Luge is really... The Dr. Luge spot is really interesting because it has a lot of HP, and it was technically 4 different entities in the first place, but now all of those HP totals are combined into one fight, and it's quite a bit of a slug fight to get through, but Dark Elf isn't going to be too bad. In the second form, it's weak to Artemis arrows, so shouldn't take too long to get through.
Also doesn't have the boss bit in the second phase, so those hourglasses might come into play just to make sure that it's a little bit safer, although it's not going to hit too hard. Weak is probably the most dangerous thing you're going to see here.
Don't be too confident about that. The mist is percent based in the second form, so it can actually do a fair bit of damage, especially to these rather tanky Cids, but it'll be dead long before that's a problem.
And Adele and Invenerable both saw that pass, went through the water hag fight, and are walking out with it, which is we consider the better play. But we'll find out if Dia keeps hold of that time and just runs away with it.
Yeah, especially since everyone has decided to do the same checks at the same time. It'll be really interesting if this is what makes or breaks Dia's lead.
That's a Gungnir Spear, so ordeals.
Yeah. Or
Dragon.
Demist.
Yeah.
I want Demist at or honestly I would love Demist behind package, or in tower. Let's do Demist in tower tonight. That would be special, but I'm really interested that Dia decided to reset to Luca and now is going for the pass. I guess they regretted their decision.
Inven is making a very interesting decision. We know how much he hates ordeals in these sorts of situations when there's no real need to go to it, but he's sucking it up and just going.
I mean, keyless tower versus ordeals, they're pretty close. I think keyless tower is a slightly faster check, but I don't know, it's a toss-up. I could see any runner deciding to go either way, because if this is the tower key, or it leads to the tower key, that saves you a lot of time. And these bosses aren't a trouble anymore, so... And there's our D mist.
And D has actually gone back and picked up that pass and just said, okay, I'm going to have it. I'm not too sure if it's just because he had a save in there, or that was his last save, or just making a 180, complete 180 and saying, actually, I did need that.
But it does look like all our runners will eventually be converging on this. If only it was Meteo, if only it was Meteo.
No, that was better. Around the World, Odin, by Wyvern. How you don't see that? I've never seen that. That was ridiculous.
So, to Inven's advantage, if anyone came up here early, they would be dead right now.
Yes, they would be.
So, yeah, that's... If that was Meteo, I don't know if you could survive that, because Meteo is approximately 3 or 4 times more powerful than Odin, and Wyvern is always going to act first there. But getting the pan, so ordeals might be required. It could also be the Demas has the progression. I don't know. This has certainly become quite interesting all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's opened up slightly with the free checks available now between the demist and the two new ones from the pan. So it could still branch out in a few different ways here.
I'm also looking at Anti-Del's HP, and I really hope they save after this fight, because they don't have enough HP to survive that Odin. And that would be both hilarious, but also quite a way to potentially lose progress, because you never expect to die to something here on ordeals. So
yeah, this is the interesting part about the whichburn flag. You can't, although in most cases it is less punishing than and the mega nuke, there are cases like this where it's just worse.
I'm actually surprised by Dia here. They went up and killed Demas, it looks like, and then just walked down without completing ordeals. That is a very risky play.
Yeah.
Especially now that we know that the pan comes from... oh, yeah, that's a power rope, so... luckily Anti-Del healed a couple Cids, but... also kind of unfortunate. I wanted to see the Odin wipe someone.
Yeah. As you said, if they came up here any earlier, it would have been a wipe. If they came up with anyone other than Cid at these particular levels, it would have been a wipe. It's just because Cid has got so much HP that this is possible right now. Anti-Del did save up the top though, so it looks like he picked up that power robe and said, nope, let's go and finish it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see all these potential save scum straps from Dia. Definitely going to Luca, saving some time off the tower check. Quite a bit of they would probably still be ahead of Invin if not for the fact that Invin has skipped top of tower.
Yeah. He still does have that to go through if it, but as we know, it's not really required, so he may not even need it in the end. So it may pay out for him in the end. And Baron Key just opens up possibilities even more, because that's another 2 checks.
Yeah, but I think we'll this is looking interesting because we are still missing both the adamant and legend sword, and we know that one of these items we're going to get is the darkness crystal. So we're honestly running out of branching key item checks. The Baron Key was the last key item that has a net positive outside of the darkness crystal. So and with the second turn in of the pan being just a defense sword, it's rather slim pickings right now.
Yeah. Yep. So it's either at Baron the Baron King spot or the Odin spot that we've got our progression. I'm not really wanting to take bets on either one right now, because either one, the just going through it normally with the Canazzo spot is fairly easy, but it's still a bit of a walk, and the Odin spot is a little bit quicker in terms of walking, but it's a dangerous spot.
I will be interested if anyone decides to do the Odin spot first and then do the Canazzo spot. Altogether, it saves you just a tiny bit of walking, but I definitely noticed that Dia in particular has been taking quite a few, I would say, bold plays, so I could definitely see that potentially coming out of the playbook.
I think he's been emboldened by that adamant armor that he's got, well, which no one else has, being able to do a few of those little risky plays.
Now for the ultimate check, do you happen to remember what the Beigen spot was at the beginning of the seed?
Nope. But then again, I never do. I usually just dismiss it and just think of it when I actually get it and just deal with it.
Yeah. But
It's the Baron Guard.
Yeah, that might be why we didn't remember. It wasn't worthy of remembering.
No. Again, coffins, simple fix to a minor problem.
I am honestly a little bit surprised by the use of coffins here, because I know Invin has all of those Elven bows and Artemis arrows. You could save 2 coffins by just holding the A button, but we'll have to... I mean, it does look like Invin is making that Odin play I was talking about. He's still checking for adamant armors and coming up short so far, so...
Yeah. He just hasn't looked in that one place where we know where one is.
There's adamant armors in every chest you never open.
So, in mostly around about 150 chests?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go, everyone. Symbol has agreed with it. There are at least 150 adamant armors in every set. King Queen Eblin, well, Baron into it. pretty much free today.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is in the Knazo spot, so it's not that great, but I mean, nothing too bad about it.
Because it's a split fight, there's no crumble at the end of it that you would normally get, so there you go. Simple win. Another Cid for your troubles and whatever the key item will be. I'm pretty sure that quote is slightly off, Smoked, but I can't see where.
It's probably because he wrote the percent sign instead of actually writing percent.
Could be that, or it could be why is he targeting someone with an adamant armor? You know you don't hit those people. Oh, darkness crystal at the Baron and pot. And Inven's going straight back in for that Odin spot, and probably we'll see something odd. Who knows?
Yeah, it is interesting that Inven could theoretically have trouble with this spot, since he doesn't have the greatest armor available, but I doubt it will be a problem. It looks like he's using a Cid anchor, so...
Really? He's actually using a Cid anchor?
So even though it's like Knazo, which is not the most fun, he shouldn't have any trouble with this.
Yeah, this isn't really that high of a hit point spot, so the wave will do around about 800 damage, but it's only going to get easier from there.
Yeah, French vanilla Knazo, but it's going to be interesting if someone decides. I could definitely see Dia potentially deciding to skip the Odin spot. I don't know, I just feel like there might be some gambles being made by some of our runners.
Yeah. So there's that first wave, around about 500 damage, which after doing poking a few holes in Knazo is not really surprising. It probably would have done about that initial 800, but with his anchor having the curse ring and everyone else just piling it full of holes, no problem at all.
Dia getting their darkness crystal, using a cabin. We'll have to see if they decide to go in for Knazo as well. Meanwhile, Inven finishing off the turtles, so
yeah, I would be very surprised if Dia didn't. You wouldn't usually cabin there if you didn't plan on going back.
And we get the spoon. I don't know, I would cabin there if I was about to go to the moon. I guess it just depends.
My usual thing would be to go open up the well, go up to the moon, and then use the facilities in the actual lunar well to just rest up.
I need Accident to tell me if it's faster to use a cabin or to sleep in the lunar well. My gut says it's slightly faster to use a cabin if you have the cabins at the top of your inventory.
Yeah, it's a close one because it's just a short walk down, but to use the cabin you'd need to exit at the lunar well and then go to the inventory. So it'll be another one of those ones that maybe a few frames if there's any at all.
I mean, you have to exit the lunar well either way. So
Very true, but it's really the menu time. If it's the walk versus the menu time, basically.
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to is, first off, the animation time. I'm not sure if one of them has a faster animation or not, and if not, then it just comes down to if one of the if you can select it in your inventory faster, then you can walk down and then walk back up.
That's what inventory management is for. Put the most important items at the top. Everyone forgets it, but it's what you meant to do. If you wanted to go fast, at least.
Meanwhile, both Dia and Antidale decided to take on the turtle, so just a short while before they get their spoon and feel regret. Now, Dia has been using a lot of save strats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 key items. I think you take the spoon because you only have 7 key items, but you might reset because you would get Legend, Adamant, and Crystal, which would put you at 10.
Yeah.
But they seem to be taking the spoon and walking out.
Plus, there's still the possibility that you find an extra key item on the moon, so having that spoon isn't essential, but it does get you there a bit quicker.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like we're probably not going to have a Mac Giant grind tonight unless Invin is filling a specifically showboat like tonight. But deciding to do some reuse right now, so I wonder if he's planning on taking care of that sparkle in the Bahamut spot, which is Plague, D-Lunars, or Ogopogo, so not nice.
No, all of those aren't really great. Plague would probably be the easiest because of the way he's got his anchors set up right now. Ogopogo would be fairly hard, and D-Lunars in the Bahamut spot, I would probably hit them because their viruses wouldn't actually do a whole lot of damage, especially to a Cid.
I think the viruses would still do a fair chunk of damage, but probably not as much as the physicals, depending on if you have Dragoon armor or not.
Yeah. I do know that the wall that they put up doesn't last that long in the Bahamut spot, so they would likely be virusing themselves quicker than you'd kill them. All walls last for 30 ATB ticks, so that's not too bad, especially considering how slow they are, but if he continues to stick with Cid anchors, then maybe not the best idea to try to wait out the wall. I guess we'll see what happens when he actually gets to it, because I doubt he's going to do his grind and then say, no, I'm not actually going to.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him for exiting out right after this. I don't want to fight Ogopogo right after doing a grind.
Yeah, that's very true. He's probably come down here, see what the boss is, do his grind, exit, heal up, and then go dive back in just to see what it is. If anything, just to get it off the table and know what else is coming up.
I don't know. You can do it that way. I have a feeling, in my own personal response, I would be going to the bottom of the moon, because I know I need multiple key items. I want to go for the value right now. I'll come back for K Bahamut value later. But he is doing quite a bit of grinding right now. This is pre-10 key item grinding. I don't know if I really love this decision to grind this much.
The flip side to it, though, is if he was going to be doing the bottom of the lunar subterrane, he would do his grind down there.
We'll just have to see. It does look like he's making that grind, or dive. Meanwhile, I am a little bit surprised that Dia is back in the underworld grinding. They've spent quite a while grinding already, and they're up to 3k HP on all of their Cids. That's just surprising to me why you wouldn't grind. Maybe they didn't find the Artemis arrows in Feymarch, which is why they are here, but you'd think with 3k HP and an adamant armor, you wouldn't be that scared of lunar bosses.
No, they were using coffins for that, so you might not be as confident in his damage dealing. So yeah, those Artemis arrows might not be available to him.
Meanwhile, we have found Ogopogo. And then bringing out the Moonbells, and I assume with Cure 3s and Moonbells, this will be fairly trivial to get through.
Yeah, Bacchus whining and probably his Artemis Cids, and just letting them go to town while keeping their health up. Because with Moonveils up, you only actually have to worry about the 3 waves that come out, and you can easily get all the heals you need in that time.
Meanwhile, Antidale is going to be our first runner to check the bottom of the moon, checking our D lunar spot, so we'll have to see how this turns out for him.
Yeah, holding off on his grind as well, maybe wanting those 10 key items before going ahead.
He does find the elements, which isn't the worst fight, but I'm not sure if this is a great fight for him either.
Nah, it doesn't have too many Bacchus wines, so, and he's not doing a whole lot of damage to the Mylon part here, so it might be a bit risky, especially as it goes further in and gets a little bit more dangerous.
I mean, I did see a Moonveil be popped on his side. What's really going to be interesting here is when the Ruby trigger happens, the elements will become a mage type enemy, so a lot of damage will be dealt with those rune axes if he has one of those Bacchus right now. But on the flip side, the Fire 2s and the Fire 3s are going to do a fair chunk of damage themselves.
Yeah, none of those are doing especially high damage except for that one Cid that did 3,000. So no Elven Bows, no New Tarots, just that one Rune Axe.
Meanwhile, it looks like Dia and Inven are back side by side, almost tied with each other, so we'll have to see how that progresses. Inven does have that lead of having the twin harp, but right now that's not paying off for him. Maybe we'll get required music tonight. That would be special.
Yeah. Yeah. Elements is now in the Kinyatso phase, so it's out of being mage, so that Runex isn't doing really a whole lot of help now. That Zeus Rage will do a little bit of damage because both, I believe it's both Kinyatso phase and Valvalis phase are weak to lightning damage.
Yeah, they are weak to lightning. I'm actually surprised how much Antidel's damage went up on the phase change. Maybe he's using lit arrows. I'll have to check that next time he's doing some menuing.
Bygone is at the Pale Dim spot today, so not too bad. It's not a great physical attack spot because that's all that Pale Dim does mostly, but it's still got a fair chunk to get through in terms of hit points.
Yeah, it'll hit decently hard, but with this many Cids and the fact that Inven had Moonveils if he needed them, this won't be too much of a problem. And I did see the Earth Crystal for Antidel, so it's looking like we might be required to go back to the Earth on this seed.
Yeah, still got a few spots to check, but that Earth Crystal could be an interesting point for Antidel or anyone else who picks it up, because we do know that the adamant armor is in that first half of Castle Troya, and if they go to the treasury to pick up things, they're going to pick it up as well.
We see Antidel making some more use out of J attack items to try to get this Calbrana fight down a little bit quicker. And we see Inven picking up the first piece of the crystal, the Legend Sword, so Paladin spot is required. That's honestly a really good boost for him depending on where he goes next.
Yeah. Bygone in that spot. Giving the goods. So my guess is he's just going to go top down, and next spot will be whichburn, and then he'll go on further from there. So if we see adamant in, say, this Ogopogo spot, we know he's going to get it eventually up here. What do we have to fight in this one? Mom Bomb.
That's not too scary. This spot does hit pretty hard, and we can see the Moonveils being brought out, but a couple Berserkers, and I think you probably kill this Mom Bomb before the explosion even.
In most cases, I would say yes, but we sort of have to remember this is a group of Cids that don't hit the hardest at the moment, because he hasn't got too many levels, so his strength's still not as high as it could be in, say, Invenable's or Dia's case, who have done a little bit of a grind before this.
Yeah, it depends on how exactly things are set up, but I do think he's probably going to get about 8 hits. I think it's very close to 8 hits between the starting to explode and exploding, so I think he's going to be safe here with the damage numbers I'm seeing.
Yeah, doing it. Looks like he's getting about 8,000 damage between the 3 Cids there, so yeah, it does look like it's going to happen. Infinable has skipped the Riven spot and gone straight to the D-Luna spot, so we know he's not going to pick up exactly what he wants at the moment, and that was the package at Ogopogo spot. So nothing really there that's of interest to our people today.
That does look like it's the 10th key item for Anti-Del, though, so that will start to become a large factor, especially if they don't have to take a break to grind and are able to just keep on pushing through these bosses.
Yeah, he has hit the boss spots with the most experience, but there are still a couple of others which do give a lot.
And it does look like after getting 10 key items, he is going to kill a couple of Ryus before continuing onward.
Yeah. I'd be sort of judging that his amount of damage isn't as good as it could be, and just wants that little bit of a boost.
So as far as lunar spots left, we have the Bahamut spot Inven finished the Bahamut spot, which was the Twin Harp, and so we only have the Wyvern spot left.
Yes.
Which is, unless it's the Adamant, that's going to leave us with Twin Harp and Earth Crystal in play, and potentially Tower Key and Rat Tail in play. So that's going to start getting really interesting looking for the Adamant. It's more likely than not that the Wyvern does not hold the Adamant, which is probably going to make it anyone's guess for who's going to find the last piece of Gomo first. Assuming everyone takes different routes instead of doing the same thing that everyone else has done up to this point.
Indeed, there is that.
And we see Rubicant in the Bahamut spot. This is not or Wyvern spot. This is not the most dangerous because the Fire 2s are going to be doing very little damage. The Wyvern magic spot is fairly low. And we're probably not going to see any physical attacks from Ruby, so shouldn't be too hard. Going to be a little bit slow with all the Fire 2 spam, but nothing too drastic.
Yeah, he's pretty much almost perfectly safe here because he does have that adamant armor on one of his Cids. So there's almost no chance he's actually going to lose this fight.
Yeah, he would have to leave his game on for the next 2 hours to lose this fight, but
Are you sure it's 2 hours? It's taking 1 damage each time. I'm with a 3,400 hit point Cid. It might take a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Because there wouldn't be any counterattacks if he did no damage.
That's true, but the ATB is on Battle Speed 1. I would guess at 2 hours, but anyone's free to disagree with me, and when you have your test results, let me know. I will not be participating in the gathering of such scientific data.
I won't be either. I'm just going to let someone else do that. I'm sure we've got plenty of testers who would want to do that. I can think of one who might be interested, but that's about it.
That does sound like plenty of testers, so
yeah,
that's good. And that is the Adamant, so that does put everyone on a timer if Inven decides to keep this route going, and I assume Dia is going to do the Pale Dome spot next. They might skip over to Bahamut or go to the Earth, but it's highly unlikely. And no, it does look like they're going back in, so this really puts Dia in a pretty commanding spot, and probably just a race between Dia and possibly Invin.
Antidale has just picked up the advent as well, so I believe this is a three-horse race. It's Dia, Antidale, Invulnerable, all in very similar positions. Invulnerable just needs to take on the Withen spot. Dia and Antidale just need to take on the Pale Dim spot, go down, get their crystal. They've all got the pass, they've all got levels. It's just how the Zeroma's fight wants to treat them today, because having just Cids isn't a walk in the park in that fight.
I do think Dia has a fairly significant advantage over Antidale just because they have a few more levels and they have that adamant armor, but we'll have to see. It's definitely anyone's race, especially depending on how comfortable our runners are with just Cids.
Yeah. But as Maggie the Cat said, it's turned into a tight race because it's been tight all the way through. They've been tripping over each other all the way through. They've been in the same places at the same time, fighting almost the same bosses. There's been a couple of skips by these people, but they've been there or thereabouts. It's just how to separate them now.
Yeah, it's literally Dia has done the top of tower, which I don't think Antidale or Invin did. Invin has done Cape Bahamut, which Dia and Antidale haven't done. And Antidale, I'm pretty sure, has done the least total checks, but they were the first one to go to the bottom of the moon. It's just that they had fewer levels, so they're slightly losing out over the course of everything.
And Antidale waited until there were 10 key items to do their grind, which probably helped in them catching up as well.
Yeah, so it's really come close. It looks like Dia is going to be the first one into go mode. Just has to go back, forge the crystal, and then start the Zeromas fight. Invin, Antidale right behind, and also Invin, both neck and neck. It's really going to come down to who has the better Zerker strats tonight.
Yeah, and it's not just us Zerker strats, because as I said, with just Cid, this fight is a lot more technical than it probably should be. The agility needs to be set up fairly well. Dia's probably got the advantage on there, having in the Cursed Ring and the Adamant Arbor, so able to get a relative one Cid, while the other two don't have that.
I've definitely seen 3 or 4 curse rings for everyone, and Cid doesn't get fast enough for you to need more than just a curse ring to make relative 1 agility. But we see Ogre Axis for sale. Those are pretty nice. But yeah, it's going to definitely come down to how many Cids. I personally think this race is going to come down to how many Cids do you Zerk? Do you have the weapons arranged right? Do you have to do any extra menuing before diving into the battle? Because everyone else is not going to wait for you.
Yeah. How many cure free potions do you have? Because you're going to need a fair few of them if you're going to. If let's say you berserk 3 Cids and have 2 on alchemist duty, that you're still going to get and burn through a lot of cure frees. He's not wasting too much time there.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally down to maybe 20 or 30 seconds between Dia and Antidale. So I mean, the menuing is going to give him a little bit more time, but I would almost expect Invin to run in here and overtake Antidale because already made sure to set up your party beforehand. That being said, we do have a very important question, Poydrak.
Do we? Oh, what would that be?
As tradition around here with our -Z flag, Zeromus is going to change into someone completely random after the crystal has been used, so we must ask, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Oh, that question. And I see. I always forget that. But yeah, as we do not change Zeromus in any way. He's the most stable part of this run, and his script is completely intact from the vanilla game. All we've done is just change how he looks. Or, well, how all the developers have done is change how he looks when the crystal gets thrown. So, let's see what he is.
Ooh, Hades, nice.
Yeah, he looks a bit angry today.
And just looking at the time difference between when Dia's sprite transformed and Invin's sprite transformed, I think it's literally 15 to 20 seconds between the two of them. So we'll have to see if Invin... I know Invin has Artemis arrows, which I'm pretty sure Dia doesn't have.
Dia has Artemis arrows. He has Samurai Artemis, while I believe Invin has Elven Bow Artemis.
Well, I know that Invin has more Artemis arrows because Dia only had a charm arrow with his Artemis bow. But I don't like the using of the lit bolt, but I guess it's fine because that nerfs the first Big Bang, so I don't know. I think you would just forget the nerfs, just berserk, berserk, berserk. You don't want those nuke counters, they take too long.
It's odd that it was a lit bolt instead of a, say, silk web. Have they picked up silk webs? I'm sure they've been around.
You don't need a silk web when you have a relative 1 agility anchor because it won't actually make a difference in the fight as long as everyone stays berserked, which I'm looking at the damage numbers. It looks like we're exceeding the... If you exceed about 7,000 or 8,000 damage around, you will not see any additional black holes. I think we might see a black hole in the second phase for Dia. I'm not 100% sure for Invin. I haven't been keeping track of it very well, but...
it looks like his attacks are hitting around 1,400 damage with the bows, so it's a little bit less powerful than what Dia's doing, despite being in similar levels. Although that top Cid did just do 3,800, but that was probably the Artemis bow. Or a lucky hit. Who knows? Unfortunately, the way the restreamers work psychologically, because we do have Zeromus fights going on, music is not a priority for that. We do apologise.
I'm seeing very little... there is the first Big Bang coming out on Dia's side. I think that was in Phase 2. That was a long time... just in general, Zeromus is not doing a lot of attacking because there's so much Q jam and so much damage coming out.
Rocks are falling though. So looks like he's going to get through this fairly well.
Yep, there's the flash. That is GG's to Dia with a first place time of 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 44 seconds. Congrats.
Very well played. That's the moment fight went by very flawlessly. Having those samurai bows, and it must have been Artemis arrows to be doing the amount of damage that he had just to get through that relatively well. And rocks falling on Invulnerable's side as well.
And there is the flash for Envin. GG to Envin. He got a second place time of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 33 seconds. So lost a little bit of time on that Zerma's fight, probably due to the adamant armor, but coming in very close.
And Antidel almost right behind as well. Our third place finish with 1 hour, 25 minutes and 15 seconds. Very close between them. Very well done to all of our runners today. And I do believe we are joined by our first place ace finisher, Dia.
Hi there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, the first thing we have to ask, well, the first thing I have to ask is not about the adamant armor that you were the only one that found. How did you like Wyvern's round the world trick today?
It was good.
Good.
I'm glad I avoided ordeals until then, though. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So, having that done, and let's go back to that at adamant armor. You were the only one to find it on our stream, and it does seem that was the key to having you just win this, because you, Invulnerable, and Adele, very close between you.
Yeah.
So, how did it feel finding that early? Finding it that early.
I honestly figured most people would get it because we had like such quick access to exits there. So I was like doing this extra doing that I normally may avoid, and finding that adamant there was just like, oh, okay, most people are probably gonna get this. And then as everything went on, I was like, okay, what's happening? There's no way I'm ahead. It's like I made so many mistakes, and just like, yeah, adamant armor would save me there.
No, it was honestly very close between you, Invin, and Antidel the entire time. You guys kept on going to the exact same spots, I think. The only thing that kind of tripped you up a little bit and ruined some of your early lead is you went to Luca, and then you reset out of Luca to go to Tower. You found nothing was at the top of Tower, so you reset back into Luca and got the pass, which I think was the correct decision. We were debating whether or not it was faster to skip walking out of Luca, but with the water hag there, that was a really tough call to make.
Yeah. That was like kind of my thought process. So, like, when I was on the trip, I was like, would that pass save time? Like, okay, if I don't find anything at top of tower, then I'll just reset back because I still have that save and just grab it and go. So at that point, like, I think it probably saves time.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting seeing that. I don't think Invin or Antidel went up the tower. Alternatively, Invin did go and do the Cave Bahama and did a top-down clear, unfortunately skipping over the Wyvern spot, so doing Wyvern last. So overall, it was really close between the three of you. You had the extra tower check and Invin had the extra Cave Bahama check, but other than that, all three of you were basically neck and neck the entire seed. And it just came down to who was able to find their go mode items first. You were just barely edged out everyone. You had about a minute advantage that went all the way down to 15 seconds. About 15 seconds was how much you beat Invin into the Z fight through, but you had a little bit better fight with the adamant armor and the extra ogre axe you purchased, and was able to clean up the fight really well.
Yeah. I was actually looking for Ormus arrows there, because like, if I find these Ormus arrows, I'm just gonna throw Ormus bow and Ormus arrow on my adamant Cid, and just let him do everything himself, pretty much.
I believed you had Artemis arrows from, and in that last fight, did you not?
No, I had Trum arrows. I never found arrows.
Okay then, Simba, you were right, sorry.
Yeah, actually there were Artemis arrows for selling Fame March, which was a big question of who's going to remember to check that or not. Invin definitely had, and I think, yeah, Invin and Antidote definitely had the Artemis arrows.
I don't like checking the Fame March weapon shop, because that one NPC always blocks you.
Yeah, it's not even just that one. If you tried walking to the other side of the map to exit, that NPC will block you too. Yeah. The Fame March weapons and armor shop are horrible to visit.
Yeah.
But overall, it was very close. Literally, you didn't have Artemis arrows, but you had the adamant armor. They had Artemis arrows, but didn't have the adamant armor, so really tight there at the end. And it was very interesting to watch that blitz to Zeromus.
I'm really glad I didn't heal throughout the move. Because holy crap, if I was healing after every fight, like that would have cost me the race probably.
It probably would have done a fair bit, because it is just using the cabin does take about 10-15 seconds, so.
And then like I just walk back to it every time.
Yeah, and being under a minute, having an under a minute lead at the end of the thing, yeah, it very much likely would have forfeited that first place, but you didn't. You got through it, so congratulations. Any last thoughts about the seed before we let you go and get your breath?
Honestly, I just really like this flag set. I think Cids with like kind of a league-esque setup is actually pretty fun to do. And other than that, just thanks to you guys for commenting, thanks to the Restream team, and thanks to Iker there for tracking. And that'll be all from me. Bye.
Have a good evening and well done.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, we have BG Rich trying to finish up their moon checks. They did check the Twin Heart for us. I believe everyone said it was Fisherman's Horizon earlier, so thanks to them for checking the Twin Heart, but still looking for their Legend and Adamant. They're about to get their Legend sword here and then just have to take on the Wyvern spot for their Adamant.
Going top down, so it's likely that Wyvern spot would be the next check, but as Invin has already shown, it's not necessarily set in stone. Okay, so Invenerable is going to go and have something to eat. He's strangely hungry. Apparently he's human. Did you know that?
I mean, I've definitely seen a few times where Invin has shown a human side, but that might just be something trying to trick us.
Yes, it must be simulated. But in the meantime, Antidale, congratulations on your third place finish. If you're here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm hearing you guys. Let me check a setting here.
Okay.
All right, how about that?
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Excellent. So the first question I've got is, how did you like Wyvern's move today?
That was really great. The backwards Odin is pretty spectacular.
Excellent. You don't usually see it from Wyvern, but it was a nice little feature today.
Yeah, I felt really glad that I had Cure 3'd up so I could kamikaze that spot.
Yeah.
And so my Cid survived.
We were wondering if you was going to go back and get a little bit of a heal before that, because you went into that with fairly low health. You left the first fight with fairly low health, and we were thinking, if you go in now, you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, that felt real good. So I remember the Cure 3 for that one.
So, in terms of the seed, how did you feel it went for you?
It felt like it went pretty well. You used a lot of J items early just to clear bosses pretty fast. It was pretty straightforward overall.
Yeah, that was definitely a strat that we saw you take up that some of our other runners didn't, and especially the Zeus Rage against the early Odin, and a few other spots saved you a little bit of time. What it ultimately came down to is Dia had a adamant armor from the Troya Treasury, which was able to make a lot of fights a little bit more trivial, which was kind of interesting seeing everyone try to power through the fights normally versus Dia, who had a fairly free time with most of the bosses if they were willing to wait on them to die.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I thought about checking there and decided that it probably wasn't going to be there, and kept checking a lot of other places.
We noticed that in the end, you had, out of the top 3 runners, you did have the least amount of checks done. The most amount of checks done. However, you waited until 10 key items to do your grind, and that's what really brought you back into the contention. And was that always your plan, to wait until those 10 key items? You didn't want to do it any earlier, just for that extra little bit of damage?
Yeah, pretty much. I hadn't run into anything I needed to really grind for, except to survive against the Dark Imps and Leviathan long enough to hourglass them. So I figured while I was still rolling and it didn't seem like it hurt too much in terms of speed, I would just wait and only do a couple of grind fights. And I realized I never bought hourglasses too, so that definitely helped the decision to just put off the grind on the moon at least.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. We also noticed that you were running low on Bacchus Wines and Moonvelves near the end, which is one of the problems with buying all of the extra J attack items. Is you can get through the early bosses pretty easily, but then you start running low on resources, where I think Inven was using like 2 or 3 Moonvelves per fight at the end, and had plenty of Bacchus Wines to spare, so was definitely able to be a little bit more liberal with his usage later.
Yeah, that's a good point on the balance there of where to spend your money. Even though there's usually a lot of money in these seeds, there's not, infinite money.
Yeah, it's very true. A lot of the key items that you would need to really build up a Cid team, the Moonveils, the Bacchus Wines, his weapons, and a bit of his armor, is all fairly expensive. You need to really find that balance that you wouldn't find in another sort of layout of a set of people.
For sure.
So, any other thoughts about the seed before we let you go and contemplate what to do next?
Not really. It's a pretty fun seed, and thanks for the restream and the commentary and the tracking.
Thank you for volunteering, and good luck in the next races, and I'm sure we'll see you again.
All right, thanks. Have a great night.
Meanwhile, during our interviews, we did have 2 more finishers. PK47 finished in 4th place with an official time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 21 seconds, and Miyari Noku finished in 5th place with a time of 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 6 seconds.
Well done to them.
Meanwhile, we do see BG Rich taking on the element spot, having a little bit of trouble with the or the D lunar spots, and having a little bit of trouble with the elements. It's especially with the rapid fire fire threes and glares. I can definitely see the problem here. They don't seem to have used a Bacchus wine to help slow down the attacks, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. And also, unfortunately, this spot doesn't have what they need, so we'll have to see if they're able to eventually overcome this fight, or if they'll have to maybe take a break and come back later.
Yeah. Oh, one putting a dwarf axe for extra agility manipulation could help here. So I think he's a little bit ahead.
Yeah, I did notice that the Cid in the middle had an Artemis bow and a crystal ring on, which is making him probably the fastest party or member of his party, and typically that's not what you want when fighting lunar bosses, but we'll have to see how he chooses to set up his party.
Yeah. Another thing that we really didn't make a whole lot of notice about, but in terms of armor, there's not been a whole lot found with elemental protections with the Dragoon gear. Yeah, so Kenyatta, the element spot, or the Rubicante part of it, the fire damage is coming out at full power.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty tough to deal with. On the other hand, if someone really wanted to, I see 4 curse rings at the top of BG Rich's inventory. They could make a Cid absorb fire damage if they have even 1 item to put on, but I'm not sure that they do. But yeah, for the most part, I think they just I'm not sure, do they only have a couple Bacchus wines? I would, especially with Cids, it's usually easiest to just
I saw
Bacchus wines at the...
I believe I saw 10, so I'm not too sure why you wouldn't just throw another one on one of the other Cids just to see if it can be done.
But the Rune Axe just hit for 9,000 damage. I think the next hit will probably kill and skip the face change. We'll have to see. Yeah, straight up kill. So
yeah, especially quad 9s there. Yeah. So getting through that fight, just like Invenerable though, he did pass over on the Wyvern spot, so has got to go from there. He's going to go likely face Bomb at Ogopogo next before heading back.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And then probably clean up the Wyvern spot. Usually you don't leave the Wyvern spot just sitting on the moon. I would not personally go back just for the Earth Crystal, because the Earth Crystal is, in all honesty, the worst check on this flag set because of how many cutscenes and bosses and walking you have to sit through. And it's just for 2 Cids whom you've already got a literal handful of.
Yeah, and the only it's either the pink tail or the tower key that it would be, wouldn't it? More likely the tower key.
I think it has to be the tower key.
Yeah, with the tower key given the pink tail.
I know that he did the twin harping at the rat tail. I assume he turned in the rat tail. I'm not 100% sure he turned it in.
I do believe he
assuming he
did,
turned in
yes.
the rat
And I think it was an Excalibur. But
Okay. Then that would mean this is the package, the Wyvern Spot is the Adamant, and then Earth Crystal would be Tower Key into Pink Tail. Unless we're forgetting some random boss somewhere, which it could be possible. I'm not gonna put it off, but
yeah, I can't think of any other spot that we've misplaced.
yeah. But this is a great opportunity to ask you, Poydrak. At the very beginning, you asked me if I would share any of my super secret Cid strats.
Yeah.
So, having watched this, have you learned anything new about Cid?
Personally, not a whole great deal. Have you?
Besides your story about using Peep on Valvalis, no.
Right. Okay, so basically we're still in the same boat as before. Basically hit it in the face with a hammer or an axe until it either explodes or Cid explodes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to sum it up. I mean, there's not too much about it. Cid's a pretty simple character. He likes to, for an engineer, he likes to keep things simple.
Yeah. He does seem to put all his eggs in a very small basket, and that basket is usually called the Enterprise. So, BG Rich through the Mon Bon fight, walking back and not using that exit that he's got in there, so likely heading over to the Wyvern Spot now. Strangely, he's cabining there instead of just walking to the Wyvern Spot. He might be thinking do a bit of a grind first.
Yeah, that would probably make some sense, especially if you think, oh, I'm probably going to leave the moon right after this, or you could just be saving. I mean, there's times when I save or use the cabin when I really shouldn't, like right outside of Toria before doing the Zromus fight, but you gotta live with your mistakes.
Yeah. Only got 4 Buckus wines left, I saw, so could be a little bit lacking on them in the final fight if he doesn't go to get some more.
Yeah, 4 should be fine, depending on which strats you use, but overall, I mean, 4 is about right. You berserk 3 Cids, and then you have 2 alchemists, and then you have a safety Bacchus wine just in case.
Most
we'll
likely for the one that's got the adamant, the Artemis.
Yeah, that would be my choice, but honestly, the thing about Cid is, even though the Artemis is technically your best DPS, especially if you have a good anchor, which I'm not sure BG Rich is using the greatest anchor right now. We'll have to see if he decides to change anything up for the Z fight. But since you're not getting since the extra agility doesn't matter as much, you're not getting as much benefit out of the Artemis bow. I would like to see him move the Artemis bow out of the middle for the Z fight though, because that could get rather that could make the Z fight rather complicated at battle speed 1 if he's using a 30 or 40 agility Cid in the middle.
Yeah. Especially with the other Cids being so slow compared to it. Where would you like to see the Artemis bow in this? Would you like to see it on the top slot?
Honestly, it doesn't matter a whole lot. The top spot is a fairly decent. It's probably the easiest to use because that guarantees that you're going to have a relative 1 agility Cid in the top spot, which means you can get a Bacchus wine out right as soon as the fight starts, and after that, life is easy. If you decide to keep the party, like if you don't anchor the Cid enough in the middle to cause RA1, then you're probably going to have your fastest Cid, thus the one with the Artemis arrows, go first, which means you have to use the crystal on them, and that becomes a problem. There's a lot of reasons for that. The ATD system in Final Fantasy IV is weird, but top spot is fine. Honestly, any spot except the middle is perfectly fine. It just really depends.
Yeah.
Top spot is preferred just because it goes first with the way we usually set up our Zeromus fight. Well, first after the crystal.
Yeah. We have had a forfeit, unfortunately. Pixel Tamer has decided the seed has gotten the best of him. Likely in the Zeromus fight and just couldn't find the optimal setup. As we said before, the Z fight in this sort of setting isn't easy. It does take a bit of a setup to actually make it as easy as what Theo and Venerable and Nantedale have made it look today. So hopefully he won't be too disheartened by it, and we'll come back even stronger, and we'll see him again and see him succeed.
I am a little concerned for BG Rich here because they just put up all those moon bells, and moon bells don't stop glare. They will stop the physical attacks, but you could have just killed Ruby before he did a physical attack, I feel like. That being said, he is going to burn through his last Bacchus here, so he's definitely going to need to restock for the Z fight. Hopefully he remembers where he bought those.
Yeah, Moonveils in against Rubicante are basically, I'm not going to say useless, but they're not helpful.
Using the blizzard when the cape was closed. Yeah, I mean, it's reflecting the Fire 2s, but the Fire 2s don't do any damage, and you're technically healing. Even if they did do damage, then you're just healing Ruby, which I don't know. I don't think the Moonveils are necessary. They're not really hurting anything.
Yeah, the magic power in this spot isn't enough to really make it worth it. If it was in a high magic spot, maybe, but even then you could usually just get through it with just pure damage anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a high magic spot, you would just be scared of the glare, I would think. The Fire 2s are going to hurt a bit. It's just, again, if it's high enough that it's hurting you, then it's going to be high enough to heal him. But anyway, BG Rich through the fight, going to get his adamant, and we're probably going to see a very quick exit, go grab the crystal, and we'll have to see how he decides to do his Zeromus fight after he presumably buys some more Bacchus wines, because that's really going to be the interesting part here. How he chooses to tackle the Zeromus fight.
Yeah. How he sets this up is key. Putting a save on the moon for some reason, but maybe just not wanting to lose progress in case of anything.
Always save, even when it doesn't feel like you should save. Save anyway. There we go. For some reason reset. So it's a. They want to go check the Hummingway shop.
Has anyone actually checked that shop today?
I don't think so, because I think we found everything we needed on the Earth, but we'll have to see what's here.
That's a good question. Simbu, can you answer that? Why Ruby wasn't absorbing the fire from his own attacks?
Was he not healing from it?
No, he was taking damage.
I honestly wasn't paying attention, but if I had to presume, it could be that he doesn't. I'd have to rewatch the fight. I wasn't completely paying attention, but it might be that his absorb bits are only set when his cape is open. I mean, closed. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was taking damage both when it was open and closed. So it did seem a little bit odd.
Since it looks like we have a minute, I'll pull up the VOD and look at it real quick to see if I see anything.
The only thing I could think of is if fire absorption doesn't get triggered until he actually takes direct fire damage from you. But that seems like a long shot. Because it is known that ice damage, you can hit him with ice damage any time until he closes the cape for the first time.
Oh yeah, it is white as if he's taking damage. I'm not sure. I'll have to check his boss script after the race to see what's going on there. Because he absorbed the damage from the blizzard.
Yeah,
I'm honestly not sure what's going on there. Unless for some reason his... Honestly, I don't know. That's a really good question.
yeah, it's got to be something with his script. It's just maybe the absorption bit just didn't trigger because he hadn't actually done the one thing that it tells that says, oh, absorb fire. Nothing in Kqm's shop today, except the crystal, because, yes. At least in the chest. The weapon shop isn't too bad, having both earth hammers and those ogre axes. So you really have your own choice of what damage type you want. But now that he's got his crystal, we can see where he's going. I was going to say he's going to see him head to Zeromus, but apparently he wants a couple of stops. I can see why he would want those. Picking up a couple of elixirs. Emergency healing in the Zeromus fight is not a bad thing.
Yeah. I'm looking through the script right now, and it doesn't look like he sets any of his immune bits for fire. So it would be whatever he starts the fight with. So I'm pretty sure he normally absorbs fire attacks. So unless there's a bug with the wyvern spot where his resistances aren't set correctly, that would be interesting.
Moonspots have been known to be a bit interested in some stats and resistances. Have made a few changes, so that might be it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'll have to take a more in-depth look at it after the race, but anyway, we do have BG Rich heading into the fight. Did he do any agility anchoring yet?
No,
or...
he has not. He has not looked in. Well, he had a look in his party setups quickly, but I don't believe he changed anything.
Okay. Then that's going to make this a very interesting fight. So if he's still using the setup we saw earlier, his middle Cid is about twice as fast as the rest of his Cids. And the problem with that is Zeromus is about twice as fast as the middle Cid. So he's probably only going to get 2 or 3 attacks per Big Bang if I had to take a guess, and that's really scary. We'll be able to see based on how many shakes before. If we see 3 shakes, that's really bad for him. We only see 2. So still 2 is fairly not good. That means that in the time it took the middle Cid's ATB to count up to 5, Zeroma's counted up to its total, and then 1, and then its total, and then 1 again. So
yeah, it's not good. It's manageable, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Looks like he cycled round to throw the crystal with that last Cid before getting the Buckus wine on that middle Cid.
Yeah, we're definitely going to want to see a silk web in this fight. In the other fight, it didn't matter, but this fight, you definitely need a silk web. If he does not have a silk web, I'm going to say that BG Rich is in a bit of trouble here.
3 Buckus wines straight up.
So we do have silk webs. That will make things a little bit easier. The good news is we have a bunch of HP, and we do have a silk web out, and we do have 3 berserkers, so it's going to jump the queue a little bit, not as much as if we had relative 1 agility strats, but this fight's still doable, but the DPS is not going to be on the same level as the fights that our other 3 runners went with.
Yeah, I do believe he got 1 attack, if that. I don't actually think he got any attacks before that Big Bang come out, even with the Barkus wines. So it's really hoping that that Silk Web slows Zeromus down enough that he's getting those 2-3 hits each turn from each of his berserkers. As you said, the good side is that he's got a lot of hit points. He's got a lot. He's got a few more levels than any of the other runners did that when they went into this. So he's hitting a little bit harder, and he's got more buffer to deal with these big bangs.
Yeah, and he... Let me see here. I think that Silk Web is too early. Based on what I know about this Zeromus fight, that Silk Web is too early, so this Big Bang, if it comes out, will be... Actually, maybe that was right. I'm not sure, it's really hard to say.
Oh, well,
no, that was
now.
nerfed. So...
So if he can hit all the nerfs, that makes this fight a whole lot easier just by that 1 action.
Yeah, it's definitely looks like it's going to come down to he's probably going to throw in an elixir. This is where things get scary. Black hole is a little bit interesting here. Does that mean he's in phase 2 or is he still in phase 1? That's going to change a lot here.
Inven, just so you know, Ruby was also taking fire damage when the cape was closed. That's really the confusion that's sort of taking place here. It is just the fire damage was taking place all the time. No, it was all the way through the combat. And he opened and closed it, I believe, twice.
So BG Rich's fight is getting a little bit dicey here. He should still be fine if he can get a couple Cure 3s off, especially on the middle Cid, but depending on where he's at in the script, this could get very troublesome very quickly.
Yeah, that elixir is going to help. I feel that he's in the nuke phase.
Yeah, that was just a second black hole, which means he missed skipping the first black hole. And unfortunately, that means that he's going to have to Bacchus again. He's going to take a nuke. And the good news is he has a little bit of time to recover right now.
And that the nuke hit his highest hit point Cid, so
yeah,
he should be able to get 2-3 Cure 3s off, as well as Bacchus Wine behind 2 of his Cids, and then just go ham with those 2. He's going to sacrifice 2 of his Cids to the next Big Bang, though, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think he technically has enough time to recover at least one of them. And if he has 3 Cids up, he should be fairly safe. I think he's going to take the next Big Bang. I don't think he has the DPS to go into Meteor phase. But it's really going to come down to how well he can recover after this. That Silk Web should go off. Depending on who that nuke hits, this could be dangerous. Because
I'm sort of seeing a Big Bang straight into Meteor here.
Big Bang into Meteor is fine. I'm a little bit more concerned if he has to face one more Big Bang. But I think he should have enough DPS to get into Meteor. Yeah, okay. Then this fight is free enough, so...
Yeah, rocks falling and the people that matter aren't dying. Just a couple more or hits from that middle Cid and this should be fine.
But we could definitely see that was a much more technical fight. We had to nerf a lot of Big Bangs, and even now we have a couple Cids dead. It's a lot scarier when you don't have everything situated properly, but we do see the flash on BG Rich's side. Ji Kqm with an official time of 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 59 seconds.
Yeah. We're sort of running a little bit behind everyone, but these flags, for as basic as they are, they're still technical in their own right.
Yeah, and we did see BG Rich have to also take on the Twin Harp and stuff, and if you're not comfortable with these types of strats, you can definitely lose some time over every single part of the seed, and that's really what it is they lost a minute or two going into every major area, and it just built up. But I think we'll be joined by BG Rich in just a minute. Looks like he's in general, so I'll pull him in.
I was just doing that. So there he is, GG BG Rich. So first question, as I've asked everyone else, how did you like Wyverns at Theatrics today?
GG, I thought it was pretty funny actually.
Good. Because whichburn allows us to have these little interactions that you don't normally see, and Wyvern going around the world just to try and slice you in the back with a sword that shouldn't be his is a bit interesting. So.
Yeah. I was personally begging for Medio because I wanted to see everyone grind to level 99, but that's just me.
Yeah, that was interesting because I lucked out because I went there later, and so my levels were high enough that I didn't wipe, so I really lucked out on that one.
Yeah, it was interesting. Almost everyone was taking the exact same route through the seed, and everyone did ordeals last as far as those on the restream, and it definitely saved them. I think Antidel really was the one who looked out the most. They went into ordeals with only 1,000 HP on all their Cids, and then healed up so they could do kamikaze strats on the second boss, and it saved their life because they didn't get killed by Wyvern. So
wow,
very interesting.
Good thinking on that. I didn't even think to do kamikazes with those hit point levels.
Well, with Cid, that sort of becomes available because he does have that high HP pool. It's unconventional, but it certainly worked in that situation.
Definitely, yeah. I think Cid percent begs for a lot of different unconventional strategies.
So, how did you find the Cid? It's not your typical thing just having the Cid. So, how did it play out for you, do you feel?
I actually enjoy Cid percentages because I've done that before where practicing on the tournament flags and just trying to character, so I'll do like at least one Cid percent and one Yang percent when there's like tournament play, so it's when these weird ones come up because then at least I'm familiar with trying to use Cid in these scenarios.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Unfortunately, you never you were the only person to give us the Twin Heart check, which was really nice. We were scared we weren't going to get it tonight, but unfortunately, you never got an adamant armor because the obvious route for you would have been the Earth Crystal to the tower to the Pink Tail, but there was also an adamant armor in the Toria Treasury, which Dia was the only one on stream to pick up, which is part of the reason they were able to get first place tonight.
Was that under the Earth Crystal treasures or just the regular treasures? Do you remember?
The regular treasures. They had it at, I think, about 12 minutes into the seed, and obviously that helps a lot when you don't have to worry about most of the scary things.
Right, and pretty much once you get one adamant armor, you don't track any more treasure chests, so that's true.
Yeah, so that was really his sort of thing, but your own little run through, nothing to be ashamed of, really. You've shown that you can get through a lot of these little situations where you don't have a whole lot of resources. We noticed that you were running out of Barkus wines at the end of the moon, and you were really trying to save them for that last bit, that last fight against Rubicante, instead of using them on your grind.
Yes.
And just those little things show that yes, you have a very wide understanding of the game and more than willing to show off. So thank you very much for that. Do you have any sort of last thoughts before we send you off?
I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for broadcasting, restreaming, commentating, tracking, and giving me a chance to participate in that. It's always fun to go. Depending on the weeks, I'll definitely back off and like other people can do it. But when it was a SID percent, I was like, I got to at least do one of these restreamed.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, and it's always good to have you on, and it's always good to have everyone on. So feel free to jump on in again in the future, and I'm sure you will.
Will do. Thank you so much. GG.
So, Simbu, I do believe we're done tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we're going to here in a couple minutes raid the Valkyries, RPG Valkyries, which a lot of our admin team are a part of. But was a great race. I want the Meteor Wyvern to make an unbeatable seed one week, but we'll have to wait for another time. Do you have any final thoughts?
The only final thoughts I have are really to, if you haven't tried this randomizer before, do give it a shot. Join our Discord. Just find a ROM, get involved. There's plenty of people that are wanting to give a little bit of help. There's plenty of guides and resources on the Discord that you can use. Jump on in, come on into these races maybe in the future and have a little bit of fun. And other than that, we're going to send you over to the RPG Valkyries, as Simbu said. They're doing their Speedrun Ragnarok, which is raising in money for a charity. I can't remember which one. And do you remember which one's Simbu?
I'm sorry, I don't remember, but I think we're running out of time.
Take this. So yeah, we're going to send you over to them and enjoy what they're doing and give them some love.
Good night, everyone.